Zeph pressed his small body against the cold metal wall and tried to make himself invisible. The maintenance tunnel was dark and smelled like old oil, but it was quiet. Above him, thousands of aliens walked through the bright corridors of Kepler Station, but none of them looked for him anymore. He touched the side of his head where other Vithrani had the glowing spots that let them talk without words. His spots were there, but they were small and dim. They barely worked. His parents used to say it was okay that he was still their son, but his parents were dead now, killed when their transport ship hit an asteroid 3 months ago. After that, everything changed. The other Vithrani families on the station looked at him with disgust. They whispered that his broken mind would bring shame to their race. When the Vithrani Council tried to find him a new family, every single one said no. They called him defective, worthless. A mistake that should be corrected, so Zeph learned to hide. He found ways into the station's lower levels where the machines hummed, and the pipes carried water and air to the levels above. He ate scraps from garbage bins and slept in warm spots near the heating systems. Sometimes security guards saw him, but they always looked away. Nobody wanted to deal with a broken Vithrani child. Dr. Sarah Chen crawled through the maintenance tunnel with her scanner beeping softly in her hand. The station manager had called her about reports of some kind of pest in the lower levels. As the station's head of xenobiology, it was her job to figure out what kind of creature was stealing food and making nests in the maintenance areas. Her scanner showed life signs ahead, around the next corner. Something small and warm-blooded. She moved quietly, not wanting to scare whatever it was. When she turned the corner and shined her light forward, she expected to see some kind of animal. Instead, she saw a child. The small figure tried to scramble away, but there was nowhere to go. Sarah's light showed blue-gray skin and the telltale head shape of a Vithrani, but this one was tiny, probably no older than 8 or 9 in human years. His clothes were dirty and torn, and he looked terrified. "Hey, it's okay," Sarah said softly, putting down her scanner. "I'm not going to hurt you." The child stared at her with large, dark eyes. He said something in the Vithrani language, but Sarah's translator picked up the words. "Please don't tell them where I am." Sarah's heart broke. This wasn't a pest problem. This was a child living like an animal in the station's bowels. She sat down on the tunnel floor to make herself less threatening. "What's your name?" "Zeph," the boy whispered. "I'm Sarah. Why are you down here, Zeph? Where are your parents?" The child's face crumpled. In broken standard, he said, "Parents dead." "Ship crash. Nobody wants broken Zeph." Sarah moved closer slowly. Now she could see the dim bioelectric spots on his head that should have been bright and active. In Vithrani society, those spots were everything. They let the Vithrani share thoughts and emotions directly. Without them working properly, Zeph would be cut off from his own people's most basic form of communication. "You're not broken," Sarah said firmly. "You're different." "There's nothing wrong with being different." Zeph looked at her like she had said something impossible. "All Vithrani say broken. Council say I bring shame. No family wants shame child." Sarah felt anger rising in her chest. She had studied dozens of alien species, and she knew that many of them had cruel customs. But abandoning a child because of a disability was something she would never understand or accept. "Well, I don't think you're broken," she said, "and I think any family would be lucky to have you." For the first time, Zeph looked hopeful. "You help Zeph find family?" Sarah thought about the legal nightmare that would follow. Interspecies adoption had never been tried before. The paperwork alone would take months. The Vithrani government would fight it. Station authorities would resist. But looking at this small, scared child, she knew she couldn't walk away. "I'll help you," she promised. "But first, let's get you somewhere safe and warm. And get you some real food." Zeph followed her through the tunnels, staying close but ready to run. When they reached Sarah's laboratory, he stared in wonder at all the equipment and specimens. Sarah heated up some soup and watched him eat like he hadn't had a real meal in weeks. "The bioelectric organs," Sarah said carefully. "Can you tell me about them? Do they hurt?" Zeph touched his head. "No hurt, just quiet. Other Vithrani, their spots make bright light. Share feelings, share thoughts. Mine only make small light. Can't share with others. Can't hear their thoughts good?" Sarah nodded. She had read about Vithrani communication, but seeing its absence was different. "But you can understand me when I talk, right? And you can learn things?" "Yes, Zeph learns fast. Zeph understands machines good, better than other Vithrani children." His face fell. "But Council says not important." Says bioelectric sharing is only thing that matters for real Vithrani. The council is wrong, Sarah said. There are many ways to be intelligent and valuable. Many ways to communicate and connect with others. Over the next few days, Sarah let Zeph stay in a small room attached to her lab. She contacted the station's legal department about adoption procedures. The response was immediate and discouraging. Interspecies adoption was legally untested. The Vithrani government had to approve any placement of their children, and station regulations were unclear about mixed species families. But Sarah didn't give up. She also noticed something amazing about Zeph. While his bioelectric communication was limited, his understanding of technology was extraordinary. He could look at a broken machine and somehow know what was wrong with it. He understood computer systems and engineering problems that confused even adult experts. How do you know how to fix the environmental controls? Sarah asked one day, watching him adjust settings that had been malfunctioning for weeks. Zeph shrugged. Patterns. Machines have patterns like music. Zeph can see the patterns when they break. Sarah realized that Zeph's different neural structure, the same thing that made his bioelectric organs weak, might have given him other abilities. His brain worked differently, and that difference was actually a gift. The breakthrough came when the Vithrani embassy contacted the station. They had heard about the lost child and were sending a representative to collect him. Sarah's blood went cold when she read the message. They weren't coming to help Zeph. They were coming to take him to a Vithrani colony world where disabled children were kept in institutions, hidden away from society. I won't let them take you, Sarah told Zeph that night. I promise. But you are human, Zeph said sadly. Humans can't be family to Vithrani. Law says no. Then we'll change the law, Sarah said. Sometimes the right thing and the legal thing are different. And when that happens, good people have to fight to make them the same. Zeph looked at her with wonder. In his short life, no one had ever fought for him before. No one had ever chosen him over the easier path. For the first time since his parents died, he felt like maybe he wasn't alone in the universe. Sarah started making calls to lawyers, advocacy groups, and anyone who might help. The fight for Zeph's future was about to begin, and she was determined to win. Because every child deserved a family who loved them exactly as they were. The legal office on Kepler Station was cold and unwelcoming. Sarah sat across from Administrator Krell, a stern centaurian with 4 arms and no patience for complicated problems. Behind his desk, holographic forms floated in the air, each one representing another obstacle to Zeph's adoption. Dr. Chen, you must understand the impossibility of your request, Krell said, his voice clicking through his translator. Interspecies adoption has no legal framework. The child belongs to the Vithrani people. They have the right to determine his placement. Zeph doesn't belong to anyone, Sarah replied firmly. He's a child who needs a family, not property to be claimed. Krell's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Your human sentimentality is noted but irrelevant. The Vithrani embassy has already arranged for the child's transfer to Vithrani Prime. He will be properly cared for by his own species. Sarah had seen the reports about Vithrani institutions. Children like Zeph were kept in isolation, hidden from society, given basic care but no love, no hope, no future. There wasn't care at all. I'm filing a formal adoption petition, Sarah said, placing a data pad on his desk. I have legal representation. This won't go away quietly. Krell sighed, a sound like air escaping from a damaged ship. Dr. Chen, you will waste time and resources on an impossible case. But if you insist on this foolishness, the station will process your paperwork. Slowly. Back in her lab, Sarah found Zeph working on her diagnostic computer. Somehow he had figured out how to make it run twice as fast as before. The screen showed code that she didn't recognize, but the computer was definitely working better. Zeph, what did you do to my computer? The boy looked up nervously. Fixed the slow parts. Made the data paths more efficient. Is okay? Sarah stared at the screen. The improvements Zeph had made would have taken her engineering team weeks to figure out. He had done it in an afternoon, just by watching the patterns of information flow. It's more than okay. It's brilliant. She sat down next to him. Zeph, I need to tell you something. The Vithrani embassy wants to take you away. They want to send you to a place on their home world. Zeph's bioelectric spots flickered weakly. The quiet place, where broken children go to be forgotten. I won't let that happen. But the fight might take time. Are you okay staying here with me while we figure this out? For the first time since she'd known him, Zeph smiled. Zeph likes being here. Sarah teaches good things, shows Zeph he's not just broken. You're not broken at all, Sarah said. You're just different. And different can be wonderful. The next few weeks fell into a routine. During the day, Sarah worked in her lab while Zeph explored the station's computer systems and helped with her research. He had an amazing ability to spot patterns in biological data that even her advanced programs missed. In the evenings, she taught him human customs and he taught her what he could about Vithrani culture. Communication was still difficult. Zeph could speak standard and understand spoken words, but he missed the emotional undertones that Vithrani normally shared through bioelectric contact. Sarah started learning basic Vithrani signals so she could communicate with the few bioelectric impulses he could produce. Other residents of the station began to notice them together. Some humans thought Sarah was doing something wonderful. Many of the other alien species were confused or disapproving. The Tentari delegate told her she was disrupting the natural order. The Corvin trade representative said humans were too emotional to raise alien children properly. But there were supporters too. Dr. Martinez from the human medical section offered to help with Zeph's health care. Commander Singh from station security made sure Zeph was safe when he explored the public areas. Even some aliens began to change their minds when they saw how happy and bright Zeph was becoming. The breakthrough came when the main water recycling system failed. It was a complex system that served the multi-species habitat rings, and it needed to work perfectly or thousands of beings would be in danger. The best engineers from 6 different species worked on it for 3 days without success. Sarah brought Zeph to observe the repair efforts, thinking it might be educational. The boy watched quietly as teams of experts argued about pressure ratios and filtration matrices. Each species understood their own technology perfectly, but the system combined elements from all of them in ways that none could fully grasp. The pattern is broken in 3 places, Zeph said quietly. What? Sarah asked. The water system. The pattern is broken in 3 places, not just where they're looking. Zeph pointed to a section of the system that the repair teams had ignored. The Corvin pressure regulator is out of sync with the Tentari biofilters, and the human backup system is fighting with the Centaurian monitoring program. Sarah stared at him. Zeph, are you sure? Yes, the patterns. Zeph can see them. Like music that's playing wrong notes. Sarah called over Chief Engineer Thompson, a gruff human who had been working on the system for 60 hours straight. Tom, I think we might have a solution. Thompson looked at Zeph skeptically. A kid? Sarah, we've got the best minds in the sector working on this. Just listen to him, please. Zeph explained what he saw, pointing to displays and describing how the different systems were interfering with each other. Thompson's expression changed from skepticism to amazement to excitement. My God, the kid's right. We were so focused on the obvious failure point that we missed the cascade effect. Thompson started barking orders to his teams. Recalibrate the Corvin system to match Tentari biorhythms. Override the human backup protocols in sectors 7 through 12. It took another 6 hours to implement Zeph's solution, but it worked perfectly. The water system came back online, cleaner and more efficient than before. Word spread quickly through the station. A disabled Vithrani child had solved a problem that stumped the best engineers from multiple species. That evening, Sarah's door chimed with visitors. She opened it to find 3 Vithrani in formal robes. One of them was Elder Taith, the most senior Vithrani on the station. Dr. Chen, Elder Taith said formally, we wish to speak with the child. Sarah's heart raced, but she stepped aside. Zeph, some people from your species want to meet you. Zeph appeared from the back room, moving slowly. His bioelectric spots were dim with nervousness. The 3 Vithrani adults studied him with expressions Sarah couldn't read. Elder Taith knelt down to Zeph's level and made a complex series of bioelectric flashes. Zeph responded with his own weak signals. The conversation was brief and intense. Finally, Elder Taith stood and looked at Sarah. We have heard about today's events. The child demonstrates abilities that we overlooked. His mind works in ways that pure bioelectric communication cannot achieve. What does that mean? Sarah asked. It means, said one of the other Vithrani, that perhaps we have been too quick to judge what makes a valuable member of our species. Elder Taith nodded slowly. The embassy still intends to reclaim the child, but there are some among us who question whether traditional placement is appropriate. The child has grown under your care in ways that would not have been possible otherwise." After they left, Zeph sat quietly for a long time. Finally, Sarah asked what Elder Taith had said to him. He said, "Maybe Zeph is not broken. Maybe Zeph is just different kind of Vithrani." He said some Vithrani on Homeworld are starting to think different thoughts about children like Zeph. "That's good news, isn't it?" "Maybe," Zeph said. "But some Vithrani think very old thoughts. They don't change easy." "And Sarah?" He looked up at her with worried eyes. "What if Zeph goes to Vithrani families but they still think Zeph is broken? What if they're just pretending?" Sarah pulled him into a hug, something she had learned he enjoyed despite it not being part of Vithrani culture. "Then we keep fighting. Because you deserve a family who loves you exactly as you are, and if that family happens to be human, then that's okay too." As they prepared for bed that night, Sarah realized that their fight was about more than just Zeph's future. It was about changing how entire civilizations thought about difference and worth, and what made someone valuable. It was a bigger battle than she had expected, but looking at Zeph's determined face, she knew it was worth fighting. The alarm that woke Sarah from deep sleep was one she had never heard before. Red lights flashed in her quarters as the station's emergency broadcast system crackled to life. "All residents to emergency stations. Critical system failure in the main gravity generator. Repeat, critical system failure in the main gravity generator." Sarah felt her stomach drop. The gravity generator didn't just keep people comfortable, it kept the multi-species residential areas livable. Different alien species needed different gravity levels to survive. If the system failed completely, thousands of beings would face serious injury or death. She rushed to wake Zeph, who was already sitting up in his small bed, looking scared. "Sarah, what's happening?" "There's a problem with the station's gravity system. We need to get to the emergency shelter." They joined the streams of humans, aliens, and mixed families moving through the corridors toward designated safe areas. The artificial gravity flickered as they walked, making everyone stumble and grab the walls for support. In the emergency shelter, Commander Singh was trying to organize evacuations while getting reports from engineering teams throughout the station. Sarah could see the strain on his face as he coordinated rescue efforts. "How bad is it?" Sarah asked when she got close enough to speak to him. "Bad," Singh replied grimly. "The main gravity generator has a cascade failure in its core systems. We've got teams from every species working on it, but..." He shrugged helplessly. "The system integrates technology from 12 different civilizations. No single species understands how all the pieces work together." Through the shelter's viewports, Sarah could see engineering teams rushing back and forth. She recognized the tall forms of Centaurians with their forearms working on mechanical systems. Tentari engineers with their flexible tentacles handled delicate circuitry. Human technicians worked alongside Corvin specialists and others, all trying to solve the same impossible puzzle. Zeph pressed against the viewport, watching the frantic activity. His bioelectric spots were flickering in patterns Sarah had never seen before. "Zeph, what is it?" "The patterns," he whispered. "Sarah, Zeph can see the patterns from here. The gravity system. It's not broken the way they think." Sarah looked at the distant engineering teams. "What do you mean?" "They're all working on different pieces, but they're not seeing how the pieces talk to each other. The Corvin gravity field generators are fighting with the Tentari bioharmonic stabilizers, and the human backup systems are trying to compensate, but they're making the Centaurian mechanical controls work too hard." Zeph turned to Sarah with urgent eyes. "It's like the water system, but bigger. More complicated, but Zeph can see the pattern." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the emergency. "Zeph, are you saying you know how to fix it?" "Maybe. But they need to stop working separately. All the teams need to work together at the same time, doing exactly the right things in exactly the right order." Sarah looked around the crowded shelter. Getting the engineering teams to listen to a disabled Vithrani child would be almost impossible. But if Zeph was right and he could see solutions that trained experts couldn't... "Commander Singh," Sarah called out, "I need to speak with you." Singh hurried over, his face grim. "Dr. Chen, if this is about evacuation schedules, it's about fixing the gravity generator." Sarah took a deep breath. "I think Zeph might be able to help." Singh looked down at the small alien boy, then back at Sarah. "Dr. Chen, I respect what you're doing for the child, but this isn't the time." "Please," Sarah interrupted. "Just listen to him. What do you have to lose?" Singh hesitated, then knelt down to Zeph's level. "Okay, son. What do you think you see?" Zeph explained in his careful standard about the patterns and conflicts between different technological systems. As he talked, Singh's expression changed from polite patience to genuine interest. "You're saying the teams are actually interfering with each other's work?" "Yes, like musicians playing different songs at the same time. Each song is good, but together they make noise." Singh stood up and activated his communicator. "Chief Thompson, I need you in Emergency Shelter 3 immediately." When Thompson arrived, sweating and exhausted from hours of failed repairs, Singh had Zeph repeat his explanation. The chief engineer listened with growing amazement. "The kid's describing harmonic interference patterns that we didn't even consider," Thompson said. "If he's right about the cascade interactions, can we test his theory?" Singh asked. "We'd need to coordinate all 12 engineering teams simultaneously, and they'd have to trust that an alien child knows more about integrated systems than they do." Singh looked at Zeph, then at Sarah. The gravity flickered again, reminding everyone that time was running out. "Do it," Singh ordered. "Set up a communication network between all teams. The boy will coordinate them." The next hour was controlled chaos. Engineering teams from 12 different species connected through translator systems and holographic displays. Zeph stood in the center of the shelter, surrounded by screens showing different parts of the massive gravity system. "Tentari team," Zeph said carefully, "decrease bioharmonic frequency by 15%. Corvin team, reduce field intensity but don't shut down completely. Human backup team, stop all compensation routines." The teams followed his instructions with varying degrees of skepticism. Some of the alien engineers grumbled about taking orders from a child. Others had heard about Zeph's success with the water system and were willing to try anything. "Now," Zeph continued, "Centaurian mechanical team, increase stabilizer pressure slowly." Very slowly. "Stop when the bioharmonic readings turn blue instead of red." On the displays, Sarah could see the different systems beginning to sync with each other. What had looked like chaos was starting to show the patterns that Zeph had seen all along. "Ritharian power team, bring core temperature down by 3 degrees. Corvin team, now increase field intensity to match the new temperature. Everyone else hold exactly where you are." The gravity stopped flickering. Throughout the shelter, people looked around cautiously, afraid to hope. "It's working," Thompson said in amazement. "The harmonic interference is disappearing. Core stability is improving." Zeph continued to coordinate the teams for another 30 minutes, making tiny adjustments as the massive system slowly came back into proper alignment. When the final readings showed green across all displays, the shelter erupted in cheers. Commander Singh put his hand on Zeph's shoulder. "Son, you just saved thousands of lives." Zeph looked up at him with shy pride. Zeph just helped everyone work together. They were all doing good work, just not talking to each other good. The news of Zeph's success spread through the station faster than the emergency alerts had. By the next day, beings from dozens of species were requesting meetings with the miracle child, who could see patterns that escaped expert analysis. Dr. Yerix, a renowned Tentari scientist, visited Sarah's lab to study Zeph's unique neural patterns. "His brain structure is unlike any Vithrani we have studied," she told Sarah. "The same differences that limit his bioelectric communication seem to enhance his ability to process complex integrated systems." Elder Taith returned as well, this time with a larger group of Vithrani officials. Their attitude toward Zeph had changed completely. "The child demonstrates abilities that our species has never properly valued," Elder Taith admitted. "We have been short-sighted in our assessment of different neural structures." "What does that mean for Zeph?" Sarah asked. "It means," said another Vithrani official, "that there are now many Vithrani families who would be honored to adopt him. Families who understand that his differences make him valuable, not defective." Sarah felt a mix of joy and terror. This was what she had wanted, for Zeph to be accepted by his own people. But the thought of losing him made her heart ache. She looked at Zeph, who was quietly working on a diagnostic program. "What do you want, Zeph? You could have a Vithrani family now? A family from your own species who would understand you better than I ever could." Zeph set down his tools and looked at her with serious eyes. Sarah taught Zeph that family is not just about matching biology. Family is about love and trust and helping each other grow. He turned to Elder Taith. "Zeph respects all Vithrani. Zeph is proud to be Vithrani. But Zeph already has family." Elder Taith studied them both for a long moment. "The child has made his choice. But the choice may not be legally recognized. The embassy still insists on traditional placement. Then we'll fight them, Sarah said firmly. We'll fight them with everything we have. That night, as they prepared for the legal battle ahead, Zeph asked Sarah a question that had been bothering him. Sarah, what if the court says Zeph has to go to Vithrani family anyway? What if human love is not enough in the law? Sarah hugged him tightly. Then we'll show them that love should be enough. That the best families are the ones who choose each other and help each other become their best selves. And if that's not enough, she smiled fiercely, then we'll change the law. Looking at Zeph's determined face, Sarah realized that their fight had become about something bigger than adoption rights. It was about redefining what family meant in a galaxy full of different species, and proving that love could bridge any gap between worlds. The Galactic family court was housed in a massive crystal structure that floated in neutral space between star systems. Representatives from 47 different species had gathered to witness what legal scholars were calling the most important interspecies rights case in galactic history. Sarah sat at the petitioner's table, trying to stay calm as beings of every shape and size filled the observation galleries. Beside her, Zeph looked small but determined in his formal clothes. Their lawyer, Marcus Webb, shuffled through holographic legal documents that floated above the table. Across the aisle, the Vithrani legal team looked confident and prepared. Ambassador Corvain, the lead Vithrani representative, had brought 3 senior lawyers and a stack of precedent cases. Their argument was simple. Species had the right to determine the placement of their own children, and interspecies adoption violated fundamental cultural sovereignty. The chief arbiter, an ancient being from the eternal species who had lived for over 2,000 years, called the session to order. Her voice carried the weight of centuries as she addressed the court. We are here to determine whether Dr. Sarah Chen, a human, has the legal right to adopt Zeftai Nurevan, a Vithrani child. This case will establish precedent for all future interspecies family law. Ambassador Corvain stood first. His bioelectric spots flashed in complex patterns as he spoke, the translator rendering his words into dozens of languages simultaneously. Honored arbiter, this case is simple. The child is Vithrani. Vithrani law, culture, and biology determine his needs and proper placement. Dr. Chen, despite her good intentions, cannot provide what a Vithrani child requires. Our species has arranged proper placement with a qualified Vithrani family on our homeworld. The Vithrani lawyer activated a holographic display showing Zeph's neural scans. Furthermore, the child requires specialized medical care for his neural differences. Only Vithrani medical facilities can provide appropriate treatment. Sarah felt angry heat rise in her chest. She knew the specialized care they were talking about was actually isolation and institutionalization. But she forced herself to stay calm and trust their lawyer. Marcus Webb stood to present their case. Honored arbiter, this case is indeed simple, but not for the reasons Ambassador Corvain suggests. This is about a child's right to choose his family, and a family's right to love across species boundaries. Webb activated his own display, showing documentation of Zeph's growth and achievements over the past months. Under Dr. Chen's care, Zeph has not merely survived, he has thrived. His unique abilities have been recognized and nurtured. He has become a valuable contributor to galactic society. His achievements are irrelevant, Corvain interrupted. A Vithrani child belongs with Vithrani families. This is fundamental to our cultural identity. What about the child's own identity? Webb countered. What about his right to self-determination? The chief arbiter raised one crystalline hand for silence. The court will hear testimony from relevant witnesses. Ambassador Corvain, present your first witness. The Vithrani team called Dr. Sithnal, a Vithrani psychologist who specialized in neural development. Through the translator, his testimony painted a picture of inevitable problems. Human emotional patterns are incompatible with Vithrani neural development, Dr. Sithnal testified. The child requires bioelectric communication for proper psychological growth. Living with humans will result in permanent developmental damage. Webb cross-examined carefully. Dr. Sithnal, have you actually examined Zeph since he has been living with Dr. Chen? Direct examination was not permitted by the human authorities. So your testimony is theoretical, based on general principles rather than observation of this specific child? Vithrani psychology is well-established science. Individual examination is unnecessary. Webb smiled grimly. We'll see about that. The next witness surprised everyone. Elder Taith took the stand, but instead of supporting the Vithrani position, his testimony was more complex. The child demonstrates abilities that traditional Vithrani evaluation did not recognize, Elder Taith admitted. His neural differences, which we initially saw as defects, appear to provide capabilities that pure bioelectric minds cannot achieve. Ambassador Corvain looked shocked. Elder Taith, are you suggesting that human care is somehow superior to Vithrani care? I am suggesting, Elder Taith replied carefully, that perhaps our traditional understanding of optimal care needs examination. The human legal team presented their own witnesses. Commander Singh testified about Zeph's heroic role in saving the station. Chief Engineer Thompson described technical insights that had eluded teams of experts. Dr. Martinez presented medical records, showing that Zeph was physically and mentally healthier than he had ever been. But the most powerful testimony came from an unexpected source, Dr. Erix, the Tentari scientist who had studied Zeph's neural patterns, took the stand with data that stunned the courtroom. In my 30 years of neural research, I have never seen cognitive development like this child displays, Dr. Erix testified. His ability to process complex integrated systems exceeds anything in scientific literature. The environment that fostered this development should be studied and preserved, not disrupted. But surely, Corvain argued, superior cognitive ability does not override cultural and species rights. With respect, Ambassador, Dr. Erix replied, I believe this case demonstrates that rigid species-based thinking may limit our understanding of optimal development environments. When it came time for Zeph himself to testify, the courtroom fell completely silent. Sarah watched nervously as he walked to the witness stand, looking tiny among all the adult beings surrounding him. The chief arbiter's voice was gentle when she spoke to him. Young Zeph, do you understand why we are all here today? Yes, honored arbiter. You are deciding if Zeph can stay with his family, or if he has to go to different family because of what species he was born. And what do you want to happen? Zeph looked directly at the chief arbiter, his bioelectric spots flickering weakly but steadily. Zeph wants to stay with Sarah. She is Zeph's family. She taught Zeph that being different is not being broken. She helped Zeph find what he is good at. Ambassador Corvain stood up. Child, you don't understand the importance of staying with your own species. Other Vithrani families want you now. You could live on the Vithrani homeworld with people who share your biology and culture. Zeph considered this seriously. Zeph understands. Zeph is proud to be Vithrani. Zeph respects Vithrani culture and wants to learn more about it, but he looked at Sarah with clear affection. Family is not just about matching biology. Sarah taught Zeph this. Family is about love and trust and helping each other become best selves. He turned back to the chief arbiter. Sarah loves Zeph exactly how Zeph is. She doesn't want to fix Zeph or make him normal. She wants to help Zeph become the best Zeph he can be. That is what family means. The courtroom was completely quiet for a long moment. Then the chief arbiter asked, And if you stay with Dr. Chen, how will you maintain connection to your Vithrani heritage? Elder Taith promised to teach Zeph about Vithrani history and culture. Dr. Chen wants Zeph to understand where he comes from. But Zeph's future, Zeph wants to choose his future. After closing arguments, the court recessed for deliberation. Sarah and Zeph waited in a small room, both too nervous to eat or talk much. Marcus Webb tried to prepare them for the possibility of losing. The legal precedents are against us, he admitted, but public opinion is changing. Win or lose, this case has started important conversations. When the court reconvened, beings from across the galaxy watched as the chief arbiter prepared to announce the decision. Sarah held Zeph's hand tightly. This court has considered extensive testimony and legal arguments, the chief arbiter began. The fundamental question is whether species membership automatically determines optimal family placement, or whether individual welfare and choice should take precedence. Sarah's heart pounded as the ancient being continued. The evidence shows clearly that the child has flourished under Dr. Chen's care in ways that traditional placement might not have achieved. The court also notes the child's own clear preference and his demonstrated capacity for reasonable decision-making. Ambassador Corvain looked increasingly uncomfortable as the chief arbiter spoke. However, the court also recognizes the importance of cultural heritage and species identity. Therefore, This court rules that interspecies adoption is legally permissible when it serves the best interests of the child, and when the child is capable of meaningful consent. Sarah felt dizzy with relief and joy. But the chief arbiter wasn't finished. Dr. Chen's petition for adoption is granted, with the condition that Zeph maintains regular contact with Vithrani cultural educators to preserve his heritage. Furthermore, this court establishes new legal frameworks for interspecies family law, recognizing that love and effective care transcend biological boundaries. The courtroom erupted in celebration and protest. Some species cheered the progressive ruling, while others argued angrily about the destruction of traditional values. But Sarah only had eyes for Zeph, whose bioelectric spots were flashing brighter than she had ever seen them. "We won?" Zeph asked, hardly believing it. "We won," Sarah confirmed, pulling him into a hug. "You get to choose your family, and you chose us." As they left the courthouse, Sarah realized that their victory was just the beginning. The ruling had opened the door for other interspecies 10 years later. Zeph stood at the observation deck of the research vessel New Horizons, watching a binary star system paint the cosmos in shades of gold and crimson. At 18, he had grown tall for a Vithrani, and his bioelectric spots, while still dim by his species standards, had developed their own unique patterns that seemed to pulse in rhythm with his thoughts. Behind him, the bridge hummed with activity as his mixed crew of humans and aliens prepared for their next mission. They were explorers now, charting new worlds and making first contact with newly discovered species. But more than that, they were living proof that the galaxy could work differently than it had before. "Captain," called Lieutenant Torres, a human engineer who had joined the crew specifically to work with Zeph. "We're getting some interesting readings from the third planet. Looks like there might be artificial structures." Zeph turned from the viewport, his mind already analyzing possibilities. "Show me the data." The holographic display revealed a world covered in intricate geometric patterns that stretched across continents. The mathematics behind the structures were unlike anything in the galactic databases. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. Kesseth, a Tentari xenobiologist who served as Zeph's second-in-command. "But I don't understand the logic behind the construction." Zeph studied the patterns, his unique neural structure processing the complex relationships between the geometric forms. "It's not just construction," he said slowly. "It's communication. The entire planet is a message. The discovery of the geometric builders, as they came to be known, was just the latest success for Zeph and his crew. Over the past 3 years, they had made contact with 6 new species, solved diplomatic crises between warring civilizations, and helped establish the first truly integrated multi-species colony. But their greatest achievement was quieter and more personal. The New Horizons had become home to dozens of beings who had been rejected by their own species. Disabled individuals, genetic variants, cultural outcasts, and those who simply didn't fit traditional categories. Under Zeph's leadership, they had become the most effective exploration team in the galaxy. Back on Earth, Sarah Chen watched her son's latest mission reports with pride and wonder. At 55, she had silver threads in her black hair and laugh lines around her eyes. Her small apartment in Geneva was filled with photos and mementos from Zeph's travels, each one a reminder of how far they had both come. The door chimed, and Sarah opened it to find a familiar figure, Dr. Martinez, her old colleague from Kepler Station, now director of the interspecies adoption program that Sarah had founded. "Any word from our wandering explorer?" Martinez asked, settling into Sarah's comfortable living room. "He found another new species," Sarah said, showing Martinez the holographic report that Zeph had sent. "Apparently they communicate through planetary-scale geometric art. Only Zeph could figure out how to talk to them." Martinez shook his head in amazement. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't found him in those maintenance tunnels?" Sarah's expression grew serious. "I try not to. But I know what would have happened. He would have died forgotten and alone, and the galaxy would have lost something irreplaceable." The interspecies adoption program now had offices on 40 worlds and had facilitated over 3,000 cross-species adoptions. Children who would have been institutionalized, abandoned, or worse were finding families who valued their differences and helped them grow. But the program's success had also created new challenges. Traditional species governments struggled with the idea that their defective children might thrive in alien families. Some worlds had banned the program entirely, while others embraced it as a new form of cultural exchange. The most dramatic changes had occurred on Vithrani Prime itself. The success of Zeph and other neurally variant Vithrani, who had been adopted by aliens, had sparked a civil rights movement among Zeph's birth species. Elder Taith, now ancient even by Vithrani standards, had become a leading advocate for acceptance of neural diversity. "The old ways served us for millennia," Elder Taith had said in his famous speech to the Vithrani Council. "But perhaps it is time to ask whether serving the old ways serves our children." The Vithrani world was now split between traditionalists, who maintained the old exclusions, and progressives who were developing new approaches to disability and difference. Zeph corresponded regularly with young Vithrani, who were growing up in a world where neural variants were becoming valued rather than hidden. On the New Horizons, Zeph finished his shift and retired to his private quarters. The room was a blend of human and Vithrani elements, earth plants growing under alien lighting, Vithrani meditation crystals arranged on human-made furniture, and photos of two families, his birth parents who had loved him despite everything, and Sarah who had chosen him when no one else would. His communication console chimed with an incoming personal message. Sarah's face appeared in the hologram, smiling warmly. "Hi, sweetheart. I just watched your report about the geometric builders. I'm so proud of how you handled first contact." Zeph smiled back, his bioelectric spots flickering in the pattern that Sarah had learned meant contentment. "They're remarkable beings, Mom. They think in mathematical poetry. I wish you could see their cities. Maybe someday. I have some news that might interest you. The adoption program just got approval to expand into the Outer Rim territories. There are apparently several species out there with their own versions of unwanted children." "That's wonderful," Zeph said, meaning it completely. "How many families are ready to participate?" "Over 500 human families have applied, plus families from 12 other species. It seems like the idea of chosen family is spreading." They talked for another hour about Zeph's mission, Sarah's work, and the small details of their lives. When the call ended, Zeph sat quietly in his room, thinking about the journey that had brought him here. He had started as an abandoned child, broken and worthless by his species' standards. But love had transformed him into something new, not human, not traditionally Vithrani, but something that bridged both worlds and many others. A soft knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Dr. Keseth entered, looking troubled. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from the Kepler Station sector. A transport ship with mixed families. Some of them are new adoptions from our program. Their ship is damaged and drifting in an asteroid field." Zeph stood immediately. "How long to reach them?" 18 hours at maximum burn. "Do it. And contact Sarah. Some of her families might be on that ship." As the New Horizons changed course toward the emergency, Zeph thought about how fitting it was to be returning to Kepler Station, where his story had really begun. But now he wasn't a scared child hiding in maintenance tunnels. He was a captain, a bridge builder, a living example of what was possible when love transcended the boundaries of species and biology. The rescue mission succeeded brilliantly. The families on the damaged transport, 3 human-alien adoptions and 2 alien couples who had adopted human children, were brought safely aboard the New Horizons. As Zeph watched the mixed families reunite in his ship's medical bay, he saw the future he and Sarah had helped create. Children who looked nothing like their parents laughed and played together. Adults from different species worked as teams to care for kids who shared their love, but not their biology. It was beautiful and strange and completely right. Later, as they prepared to deliver the rescued families safely home, Zeph recorded a message for Sarah. "Mom, I want you to know that everything we fought for was worth it. Not just for me, but for all the families like ours that exist now because we proved love was stronger than law." He paused, looking at the stars that had become his home and his mission. "I'm going to keep exploring, keep finding new worlds and new species, and wherever I go, I'll carry the lesson you taught me. That family isn't about matching biology or following traditions. Family is about choosing to love someone exactly as they are, and helping them become everything they can be." Outside his viewport, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, but now they seemed different to Zeph. They weren't just distant suns in empty space. They were destinations, homes for beings who might be different, who might need to know that different didn't mean worthless. And somewhere among those stars, other abandoned children might be waiting to discover that love could cross any distance, bridge any difference, and create families that the universe had never seen before. Zeph smiled and ordered his ship toward the next star system. There was so much galaxy left to explore, so many new kinds of family left to discover, and he had all the time in the universe to find them.